We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland, the fun half on what do you call it?
The Majority Report?
Right.
What do you call it?
It's been one of those weeks, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what to tell you. Yesterday, I did 3 other podcasts.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little inexplicable. I feel like you could have spaced that out a little more.
You know what? Had I been sort of conscious that they were all on the same day, I would have, but it did not occur to me they were all on the same day until like 2:30 p.m. yesterday.
You're getting booked. People, you're a hot commodity after this Jubilee thing.
I mean...
We won't rest. We won't rest. We won't rest. We won't rest.
It sounds like archival footage from like the 40s.
So speaking of Chuck Schumer, and again, if you feel that Chuck Schumer is not up to this moment, to the extent that you have any say in it, it is achieved by calling your congressperson, if they're a Democrat, calling your senators or senator, if they're a Democrat, and saying, hey, it's time for new Senate leadership, and I want you to carry that message. That's all you really have to say. This is not an ideological issue. Everyone from Hakeem Jeffries to union leaders to Nancy Pelosi to Seth Moulton to AOC to others in the Democratic Party have realized that Chuck Schumer is just not up to the task. Here he is last night on Chris Hayes, his second time on Chris Hayes in 5 days.
Yeah, and both interviews devastating and very well done by Hayes, I got to say.
Oh, I will also say Chris Hayes is not on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So he was on Friday night and Tuesday night.
But this
Chuck
is from the
Schumer,
book tour.
Chuck Schumer
tour.
realizes that he is in trouble.
Yeah.
And he still cannot make a rational explanation for what he did. And Hayes, by the end of the interview, figures out what the problem is, at least in terms of, from Hayes' perspective and others. But here is how Schumer started off that interview. This is what he had to watch.
To a more of a tactical decision, because there was something that happened here that doesn't normally happen, which is they knew they needed Democratic votes and they cut you out entirely.
Entirely.
Now, when that has happened before, Republicans have filibustered successfully and forced Democrats to the table. And so just purely at the level of how the tactics brought us to this point, I want to play some of the criticism, again, not from like backseat drivers or not from me on cable news, but people like Hakeem Jeffries or Nancy Pelosi. Take a listen.
Look, Chuck and I disagreed as it relates to the approach and outcome.
I think there is a deep sense of outrage and betrayal. And this is not just about progressive Democrats. This is across the board, the entire party.
I still support Senator Schumer as leader, but I think the only way that we are going to be effective as a caucus is if we change our tactics.
I would have liked to see when Chuck Schumer had leverage here to say we need A, B, C, and D for the Democratic Party and force the Republicans to meet him halfway on those issues.
I myself don't give away anything for nothing. And I think that's what happened the other day.
They said, okay, he said leverage.
Okay, that's not fair. That's not fair. That's not fair. Later in the interview, and we've gone through all his rationales of this, Hayes tries to get to like the nub here because Schumer keeps arguing this is just like in 2017. And I would argue it is, it is a subjective analysis as to whether we are in a constitutional crisis or we're on the verge of a constitutional crisis or a constitutional crisis is inevitable. Certainly we are watching what Elon Musk and Trump is doing right now is unconstitutional. And the courts are slowly catching up to it. However, and we'll talk about this in that continuing resolution that Schumer basically allowed to pass, it gives Trump a lot of leeway to continue to do what he's doing. But where we are on that trajectory in terms of democracy is subjective. But clearly, Schumer cannot differentiate between 2017 and today.
But before we play, I just want to say that was prior to January 6th, prior to Project 2025. In Trump's first term, he had like guys like Mattis or Tillerson at the start, or Reince Priebus at the start, more traditional Republicans.
He also didn't. He also won by less votes in the country.
Right.
He didn't have the popular vote.
Well, right. But I mean, part of what he's not understanding here is that Trump 2.0 is a much graver threat for the reasons that Democrats were saying prior to the election. But if you wanted to take his explanation at face value that the government shutdown, which is what he keeps arguing, would have created an even greater constitutional crisis, it still doesn't justify the lack of cohesion with the caucus. And this is where I think he's being disingenuous, and Hayes gets him on that.
Still, let's hope it stays.
Well, here's what I'm saying is that all of those things you enumerated, which all sound like good politics to me, are the kinds of things that you'd be doing if Mitt Romney were president. That, like, there's this weird asymmetry right now, which is that they are acting in this totally new way, in which they are ambitiously trying to seize all power and create a presidential dictatorship in the United States of America. And the Democratic opposition is acting like, well, if we can get their approval rate down a few points, then what? What happens?
Well, what happens is, look, first, we get it way down. He's going to have much less. This worked in 2017. You say it didn't. Now it's a different government.
It's different, though.
Oh, it is different.
My God.
But health care, we beat him. Taxes, we beat him. And guess what we did? Guess what we did, Chris?
Pause
we
it.
Took back.
Pause it. Wait a second. Taxes, we beat him. What? Healthcare, you beat him because, yes, John McCain. There's nobody even remotely close to being John McCain. And we beat him by this much on healthcare. But taxes?
And on healthcare in this continuing resolution, in fact, you lost because the framework of this dirty
No, not on the continuing resolution, on the budget resolution.
I know. I'm just saying that this paves the way for tax cuts today on Medicaid, which is a separate healthcare conversation.
That's in the budget resolution for the next one, not the continuing resolution.
Okay.
The House and one in the Senate, and then we were allowed to do all those good things. This is not the only tactic. We have to stand strong in certain instances and not give them the votes at all. But there are instances with this. The two work together.
Okay. Again, I don't disagree with any of that. But the difference to me between 2017 and now, and I've been at this desk for both of them.
It's different.
It is a full-fledged assault on the constitutional order that has not been seen again.
Well, that's
certainly in my life.
That is true.
But the question then becomes...
But that's not the spending part.
That isn't. But then the question becomes, what is the role of the minority in resisting that? That's distinct from, we're going to beat them on health care, we're going to beat them on spending Medicaid.
Look, if our democracy is at risk...
It is at risk, yes.
Sorry, it is certainly at risk.
Well, do you believe it is?
But if
Pause it for a second. Can we go back to that? Does that sound like a guy? Now, look, listen. I can understand people who say, well, that's hyperventilating, our democracy is at risk. I happen to think it is. I don't think it's completely out of bounds to think it's not really. Although I think you got to be a little bit blinkered to think that. But Schumer doesn't believe anything here because he is like, all he needs is the slightest bit of pushback from Hayes on that question. And he goes, oh, wait, no, I'm sorry, 180 degrees. Like, he is so off, he can't even, and I know this is aesthetics, but I don't understand why he cannot finish a sentence and look at Hayes while he's talking to him.
Well, he's uncomfortable, and he keeps trying to pivot back to Republicans, but he knew he messed up there. First, they immediately splashed the Chiron. This worked in 2017 on the bottom.
He doesn't see that.
But that was the second worst thing he said in 30 seconds, because to say, as the leader of the Democrats, to an MSNBC audience that he doesn't necessarily think that our democracy is currently under threat. from a political matter, regardless of whether or not you think that we're already at that cliff. And I happen to think that we're very close to it. And almost every Democrat who votes thinks that. You can't say that on TV and remain leader of the Democrats. You just can't.
Go back a little bit and just catch that pirouette he does.
Well, it wasn't very graceful.
But that's not the spending part.
That isn't. But then the question becomes, what is the role of the minority in resisting that? That's distinct from, we're going to beat them on healthcare, we're going to beat them on spending Medicaid.
Look, if our democracy is at risk,
it is at risk.
It is certainly at risk.
Well, do you believe it is?
But if
I don't want to put words in your mouth. Do you believe it's a
Trump doesn't obey the Supreme Court, which may happen, you led up to it here, then we will have two courts. We will have the federal courts, which hopefully John Roberts will stand up and make it happen. But we'll have the court of public opinion. And if that happens, as you pointed out, we have had rule of law since the Magna Carta. OK? And if that happens and the rule of law goes by the wayside, I believe that there will be very, very there will be immediate and strong reaction from
Can you
one
pause
end of
it?
the.
Okay, this is where it gets.
Well, this is the problem, isn't it? He can't even figure out what the reaction is going to be.
He catches himself because if that happens, he says, if he defies the Supreme Court, then our democracy is, he says, basically in serious peril, which I would say, like, we're at the precipice. Then the point is that the Democratic reaction may not be able to make a difference, you idiot.
It's too late.
It's too late. So you're saying if the worst thing happens, then the public is going to vote them out and his approval rating is going to drop? No, they may change the rules to make it so that they're in power indefinitely.
It's fascinating, though, because, I mean, just go back and watch. He doesn't have... If you have thought this through and you are contemplating the notion, and look, everybody I know who follows this stuff, even like somewhat casually, the precipice is, do they ignore the courts? Today, a judge, a district court, Brobust, whatever his name is, who's talking about this El Salvador flight, gave them another 24 hours for the DOJ to come in, and the DOJ is arguing, we don't need to really provide you this information, and they're refusing to do it. They got one more day to do it. We're on the precipice of the administration deciding this. The idea that his strategy, and this is his strategy, runs into something he can't articulate. This is the culmination of where it's going. And look at how he stammers around. It's almost as if he hasn't like really thought this through. Like he is allergic to even believing it's possible, which maybe it's not, but it is really problematic that he hasn't even gamed it out. Go back a little bit. Just watch how he stammers and can't even articulate what's supposed to happen next. This is the black box for him.
I don't want to put words in your mouth. Do you believe it's
Trump doesn't obey the Supreme Court, which may happen, you led up to it here, then we will have two courts. We will have the federal courts, which hopefully John Roberts will stand up and make it happen. But we'll have the court of public opinion. And if that happens, as you pointed out, we have had rule of law since the Magna Carta. Okay?
Nobody knows what the Magna Carta is.
If that happens and the rule of law goes by the wayside, I believe that there will be very, very there will be immediate and strong reaction from one end of the country to the other.
We are aroused. We are aroused.
That's what will
we
happen.
are aroused. I mean, that's not a plan.
There will be immediate and strong reaction. So the next election cycle, that's his concern.
I mean, I'm sorry. Call your congresspeople. Call your senator. If they're a Democrat, tell them Chuck Schumer has had multiple occasions now to explain what his strategy is. And it's quite clear there is no strategy.
Yeah.
It is literally hope and prayers.
Can we play a little more? And Chris's final question to him, I just feel like really gets to the heart of it.
And it's not just up to us. The people will have to rise up, not just Democrats, not just Republicans, not just, people, everybody. But our democracy will be at stake then. And
Pause
if
it
the
again. I'm
people
sorry.
make their
Does this
voices
guy
heard,
not
the strong
understand? What Republicans are you expecting to go out and protest?
Liz Cheney.
Like, I mean, honestly,
They're
Can we
disappearing
clone
this guy
protesters.
is living in a completely alternate universe.
They're disappearing protesters for other issues, and Schumer has a measly answer to it.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm glad we're going to have to really hit the streets and fight, do protests to stop this.
Exactly. He's on a book tour promoting essentially the disappearing of protesters.
Yep.
stand up and we join them, I believe we can try to beat that back. We can beat that back.
Try.
But it's on that one. If democracy is at risk, that's a little different than what we're talking about now. Even a shutdown, as horrible as it is, we'll all have to stand up and fight back in every way.
I think actually this is useful because I do think, like, just in a genuine sort of good faith way, that there's a lot of people, and I think I probably count myself among them, who think that that's where we are right now.
Well,
that the plan being deployed right now.
You may be right. I don't think so. We're there. I think
we're not there yet.
Well, I think we're getting there, and we have to be really vigilant. I just had a meeting today with the Judiciary Committee to decide how we're working through this as it goes further. It hasn't been up to the Supreme Court yet, which would be the classic if they disobey the Supreme Court. We're on our way there, God forbid, but I think we are, and we'll have to go at it and at it and at it.
We're going to add it.
That is different than anything else. Different than anything else. It's a quantum leap different because our democracy is then 248 years of American democracy. The Magna Carta is out the window, and we will all have to take extraordinary action.
Occupy buildings?
We're going to go at it. Here's the other thing again, and this is also fundamentally different. And Emma listed off a half a dozen things that are, like materially different from 2017. And we're seeing it. We see it in Wisconsin, where all of a sudden one dude drops $10 million into a race and makes it a 6-1 money advantage for the Republicans, and that is Elon Musk. And Elon Musk has vowed to fund the primary of anybody that Chuck Schumer is counting on to abandon the president. And this is, it seems to me, we can argue as to whether we're on the precipice or we're sort of far away from the precipice. And once it is, we're at it. That Chuck Schumer at least can argue that. But it is inarguable that we have never been in a situation where a primary challenge or any attempt by any member of this party to go against Donald Trump will be met with an unlimited amount of money to fund a primary challenge.
Yep.
That has never happened in the history of the country.
Yep. Chris nailed him there at the end when he said this is useful. Because you know what Chuck Schumer accidentally did there? And he couldn't weasel out of it? He admitted that he does not feel the urgency that the rest of the base does. And he does not genuinely think that our democracy is currently under threat. And even in the scenario where he talks about, he walks it back. Even if Trump defies the Supreme Court, he says, well, maybe, and then maybe people have to take to the streets. Either way, the answer is insufficient, but he compounded it. And he also showed there that this wasn't about what he's arguing, about how the government shutdown would have created an even greater constitutional crisis. Maybe he got himself to convince himself of that, but it's because he's constitutionally incapable of meeting this moment. He's a lawyer, right? He's as you would call him, a concierge. He wants to maintain our government and make sure it functions or whatever, and he values his deal making and negotiations with the Republicans over doing politics. And there's a class of Democrats, and they really are, a lot of them are lawyers and professionals, who have a contempt for the doing of politics. They believe that the American public is kind of dumb, right? And that they just have to go through this, and that eventually Democratic ideas will win the day because they have the better argument. And that's why he keeps kind of pivoting to the midterms. But all the most destructive stuff they're going to be able to do is prior to that. And that's why there's urgency right now. So they have contempt for the idea of standing for something and doing politics as opposed to the negotiation. Do contract law or something. Join a law firm if this is what you actually are interested in doing, as opposed to using the bully pulpit to stand up to the greatest threat to our democracy that perhaps we've seen in, I don't know, your lifetime or double your lifetime.
Will I get still the free parking?
Yeah.
If I join a law firm, will I get the free parking?
But he would be join a law firm. Do it.
What about my
Negotiate a
book
merger.
sales?
This is what he's suited for.
I've got a book tour.
Yeah.
We will win. We will win.
We will win greater returns for the parent company.
We won't rest. We won't rest. We won't rest. We won't rest.
Oh my God.
I love when they realize even their blather about like we need to fight them at every step, like things that are usually pretty easy to say don't make sense even for the moment. Like
we're gonna go at it.
Every chance we get, except
we're
this
gonna
chance.
go
Except
at
that
it.
now.
It's gonna be a rumble.
I fight them every day except that day.
Almost
Not
every
today.
day. Look, Chris, I had a book tour. It's been ruined. I am sacrificing. Absolutely. The book is upside down.
Oh my God, yes. People, apparently it wasn't clipped, but Schumer got mad at the start of the interview. Very testy he is right now.
The book is upside down.
Because Hayes
The
was
book is upside down.
Hayes was holding the book upside down, I guess like this, but they had, and Chris responded, we're cutting to a graphic of the book, so it didn't matter, but it already started. I mean, Schumer's feeling the heat.
Comrade Hayes there getting a little dig in.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's right. It's like the American flag when it's upside down is the signal for distress. Same with
Schumer's book
Schumer's
upside
book
down.
upside down, signal for distress. Let's do something fun, and that's Elon Musk, who talking about empathy. This is clip number. Ooh, there's no number associated with this. Do you have it?
13?
Why don't I have a number on it? Oh. 13. Elon Musk was on Fox News. Surprise.
Whoa.
Apparently, people have been going around and vandalizing Teslas.
What?
And I know this is upsetting. This is very upsetting to people. Elon Musk is having a lot of problems with Tesla shareholders now. I think there's one member of the board who's come out and said he should resign because Tesla sales are cratering in Europe. They are cratering in this country. People are running to trade in their Teslas because they don't want to be associated with this guy. And I seem to remember when Elon Musk was very upset about Bud Light because of one of the ads they had. Right? And he was telling people, don't drink Bud Light because of one of their ads.
Oh, and they were buying Bud Light cans, and Kid Rock was machine gunning them.
On the other hand, Elon Musk is cutting funding for people going through cancer studies. He is cutting funding for kids. And granted, some of these are not American children who are starving, cutting funding for them to get essentially ground peanut protein so they don't starve to death. And then, of course, now he's also cutting means to get Social Security. He is cutting flu preparedness. He is stealing all our data. But he doesn't like the fact that people are responding, against his product. And people are really showing a lot of meanness.
Mm.
We get the audio here.
This Fox News player is sometimes finicky.
Let's try and just reload that if we could.
Also, YouTube might have the full interview. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, here's the ad for the Sunday Fox football game.
All right, well, we don't need to show the Eagles right now. It's
a little painful.
It's already Sunday begins. NFC Championship already happened. All right. Yep.
Communications, and I watch all of this, and I have to ask, why? Why do I see people like I woke up this morning and saw that Teslas were put ablaze in one of your dealerships in Vegas? I've seen this happen all over the country. Bullets are being fired, charging stations are put ablaze, Teslas are being put ablaze. You have experienced assassination, threats of assassination for you and your family. What have you done that warrants this?
Pause it for a second.
I see nothing that you have done except help our country.
Pause it. Did he mean to say that Musk's family has received assassination threats, or that Musk's family has threatened to assassinate him?
Unclear. But maybe then he should, if he's really concerned about his safety, it might be a good idea to stop bringing out his young child everywhere he goes when he might be facing some criticism.
Are you saying he's using as a human shield?
Human shield?
That's weird. I did see that. What was that? The movie? It was like based on, I think, a Stephen King about or maybe it wasn't Stephen King. I can't remember. There was a candidate who used a child to shield himself at the end of it. It's an old movie. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's really come as quite a shock to me that there's this level of really hatred and violence from the left. I always thought the left, or Democrats, were supposed to be the party of empathy, the party of caring, and yet they're burning down cars, they're firebombing dealerships, they're firing bullets into dealerships, they're just, smashing up Teslas. Tesla is a peaceful company. We've never done anything harmful. I've never done anything harmful. I've only done productive things. So.
Wait a second. Okay. Hold. I certainly hope that people are not firing into Tesla dealerships when there are people there. Can you have empathy for a car? I'm just curious.
Well,
like technically speaking, I know I'm being a little bit of a, what is it? A pederast? No.
No, I mean,
a pedant.
A pedant. The Transformers, they're a little bit anthropomorphized, or the Cars Pixar film.
But doesn't empathy require to understand others' feelings? And cars don't have feelings.
My cars have feelings. They've
Right?
never done anything wrong.
Like I know I'm being a little bit, because I'm just saying.
So just a question, are these things wrong? Cutting off HIV medication so tens of thousands of kids in Africa get HIV for no reason. Allegedly segregating your Tesla dealership by race in California. Which, is that part of why he moved to Texas?
Well, there's another quote on empathy from Elon Musk that I would just like to enter into the record. This is something he said on Joe Rogan's podcast. I believe in empathy. I think you should care about other people. But you need to have empathy for civilization as a whole and not commit to a civilizational suicide.
Interesting.
Perhaps, do you think that's the empathy that these heroes, horrible people that are doing this to the Teslas, do you think that's what they're deploying here?
I listen, I have no idea. And I am just...
empathic.
It is really, this lack of empathy for vehicles is horrific.
Yeah, watch Cars.
Yeah, exactly. Go back just a little bit and let's, Uh-oh, here we go.
I always thought the left, or Democrats, were supposed to be the party of empathy, the party of caring, and yet they're burning down cars, they're firebombing dealerships, they're firing bullets into dealerships, they're just smashing up Teslas. Tesla is a peaceful company. We've never done anything harmful. I've never done anything harmful. I've only done productive things. So
courts that disagree.
I think we just have a deranged. There's some kind of mental illness thing going on here, because this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
And I think there are larger forces at work as well. I mean, I don't know who's funding it and who's coordinating it, because this is crazy. I've never seen anything like this.
Well, pause it for a second. Now I'm confused. Is it mental illness, or is it completely like a lot of people working in concert and in a whole production that somebody's funding?
It's odd. Those same puppet masters, if you will, must be funding his completely cratering approval ratings.
It's hard to imagine that this guy didn't really work out what he was going to say. And he went from both it's crazy and there's mental illness associated, and also obviously a concerted effort by multiple people who have planned this whole thing out in a very rational way. It's interesting. I want to get to the bottom of this.
I've never done anything wrong. The rockets that exploded, that was supposed to happen.
Look at the allegations of racism to his Fremont Tesla factory. Some of the most shocking, like almost Nazi-esque type allegations I've seen about what they were calling their stations that black people worked at.
2 years ago, Tesla broke U.S. labor law by silencing workers, official rules, and that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Also the Neuralink monkeys.
Violations. Yep. Oh, and all the people that have died because of self-driving cars being used on our streets as a testing ground.
Contractor death, says Greg Casar is on the case for.
Why are all the mothers of his children going on Twitter to ask him, saying, I wish this didn't have to be public, but I need support for our sick child?
Think about his family, Sam, that he never sees, and what this might be, how this might be impacting.
Think about the
them.
multiple women who, just carried a child for him, but
That's
have very
weird.
little relationship.
It's
with him
weird.
besides
All I'm saying is I wonder if he's accusing them of being behind this. It's hard to know. I wish he would be more specific. Let's play a little bit more.
The left, Democrats were supposed to be the party of empathy, the party of caring, and yet they're burning down cars, they're firebombing dealerships, they're firing bullets into dealerships, they're just, smashing up Teslas. Tesla is a peaceful company. We've never done anything harmful. I've never done anything harmful. I've only done productive things. So I think we just have a deranged, there's some kind of mental illness thing going on here, because this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
and I think there are larger forces at work as well. I mean, I don't know who's funding it and who's coordinating it, because this is crazy. I've never seen anything like this.
You actually tweeted out, and I'll put it on the screen, the level of violence is insane. It is deeply wrong. Tesla just makes electric cars and has done nothing to deserve these evil attacks. You just rescued 2 astronauts that have been in space for 286 days. They were only supposed to be there 8. You help the people in North Carolina, Tennessee, California. You have, I think...
Pause it for a second. Here's the thing. I'm confused. Because on one hand, Tesla's done nothing. And it has nothing to do with Elon Musk. On the other hand, Elon Musk's company does something, and he gets all the credit from Sean. I don't know what to think. It feels like a crazy, concerted effort to do these things. I actually saw somebody had put like flyers on Tesla cars, saying all sorts of nasty things about Teslas and the guy who produces them. And I wonder if that influences whether Tesla owners want to get rid of their car.
Yeah, I mean...
Also, BYD...
The dead zone. Thank you, social conservative liberal.
BYD, the company, Chinese company, has just announced that they have a new car that charges in like 5 minutes. So, but we can't buy that because we need to make sure we buy Elon Musk's cars instead.
I wonder if the tariffs on China have anything to do with that.
Can you imagine saying...
Sounds like a concerted effort.
Sounds like it. In real life, I have never done anything wrong.
Never.
I mean,
my poor companies.
The billionaire is the victim. The richest man on earth is the victim. But also, God, like I hope. I mean, the level of emotional stuntedness is astounding. Just can't believe it. He's a man in his 50s, but it's like he's 10.
One of the first guys who was a YouTuber in for Elon Musk's cars, named Joshua Brown, died because of the self-driving technology rollout that doesn't actually use LiDAR, but just uses a visual algorithm to, which means it could be as recently proven on YouTube, fooled by a Wile E. Coyote style billboard.
Why are you pointing that out?
That's user error.
I thought you were a part of the party of caring. That's not very empathetic to me. I'm sort of becoming Gorka now.
But that's what happened to the first guy. Is a semi-truck with a reflective surface was cutting in front of him as he was going down the road, and he didn't see it at all, and Tesla didn't see it because it reflected
onto the Tesla itself,
or
onto the road. I see.
And so it thought there was just open road instead of a semi-truck, and the guy got decapitated.
Oh, jeez.
Looking into it.
He's never... whatever.
We'll open up the phones for 30 minutes. We will get to probably 2 calls, if I had to guess, but we'll see. Let's start with, should we do this one? This Tim Pool one? Folks, if you're not aware of my history with Tim Pool, I interviewed him once almost 15 years ago when he was a camera guy at Occupy Wall Street. Then his partner, who he was working with, decided not to work with him because it sounded like, I don't know, the details from what you can tell from the reporting, it sounded like this guy felt like Tim's route was going to be a little more commercial in some ways. And then Tim went on to work for a couple of companies. And then I met a guy who actually worked with Tim at one of those. I think it was Fusion or Vice. I can't remember. And I remember that guy telling me he went to Tim's house in New Jersey or wherever it was. I think it was New Jersey, where Tim was like, yeah, my new job as a YouTuber is great because I don't have to do anything. I don't even have to read. I just go on. And that seems to be the basis of Tim's career. We had a debate. He invited me on when he was launching his show. I guess it was about 8 years ago. 7 or 8 years ago. And I don't remember the details of the debate. I do remember him telling me that I was like Thanos, and I had yet to have seen that movie yet because
Is that a Greek philosopher?
My son was not 10 at that time, so I hadn't seen the movie he was referencing. But my son grew into it, and then we watched that kid's movie. And, but Tim was a little bit embarrassed by that. And then he said that I was blacklisted because I was mean to Steven Crowder. Mm-hmm. And then, right before the election, he invited me to his studio and we had a debate there. I destroyed his bidet there because of my superpowers.
We need a compilation of Emma reacting to you talking about
I mean,
that.
it's come up way too many times.
I'm
I mean, if I come up, I mean, you bring it up many times. Disgusting.
Listen, it's something I was proud of. And then I had a debate with Tim wherein he conceded that a huge video he put out about Social Security was based upon reading one paragraph of one story. He's been doing this for almost 10 years. Social Security being a huge thing. And he didn't bother to look any deeper than that. And then he also went on to say that it is the responsibility of a person who is raped to basically to report their rapist. And if they don't, they deserve to have the baby of the rapist.
You're prop clipping.
And I was prop clipping. And this has really bothered him for a long time.
Well, because if you read the comments are from his viewers, right? Like it was pretty universal that you were doing very well against him.
When I got up from that table, he looked at me and goes, "They're mad at me." And I'm like, "Who's mad at you? Your staff?" Because I did get the sense that the staff was a little bit. I had remembered I had asked him like, Tim's got this huge skateboard park. And so I figured like, Tim's
you got to see it.
Oh, I get to see it because you walk through the skateboard park to get to the studio. It's really a skateboard like
you were at
gymnasium.
A different studio than I was at. Yeah.
It's a skateboard gymnasium with a small part of it is the office. But there is a glass wall where you can look down on it. And you know, if you've ever been to like a gym like that where you can see the basketball court or something like that, and there was like, I don't know, 5 or 6 guys working there, and I assumed, because Tim had always talked about like he skateboards, and then he goes and he's, you know, after the show he goes and skateboards. And I figure like, oh, these guys all must be skateboarders. And no, none of them skateboard. They just supposed to watch Tim skateboard.
Did they cheer while I skated?
I don't know. And but look,
Michael Jackson type stuff.
There was a lot of discontent at the office. And, you know, part of this was probably because Tim had taken all this money from the Russians. I'm sorry. Tim was victimized into taking millions of dollars by the Russians. And he, I think, misspent some of it. So there was a lot of cuts happening at that time.
Oh, but it wasn't his staff. It was the audience that he told you that we got a little off track.
Oh,
but,
right. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm getting up and he goes, they're mad at me. And I'm like, your staff? And he goes, no, my audience. I'm like, why? And he goes, because I agreed with you too much. And I thought, that's weird. And I did try and hold Tim to actually nail him down on stuff. Tim posted this exchange, I think, or the exchange I had with the theocrat at Jubilee, and said, I don't agree with this guy's religion stuff, but...
Not to address the broader religious argument
Not
here.
to address the whole point of the exchange, which I will remind people, the exchange I had with this guy, Tim invited him in there because he was so excited. The claim I made during that Jubilee video was, if you are not a theocrat, not a white nationalist, and not a billionaire, you made a mistake in voting for Trump. And then a theocrat got up and said, I'm a theocrat. And then wanted to justify his theocracy to me, or his theology, or his, I guess, where his ethics are derived from, or morality. And here is Tim explaining why I don't care about that.
Because their reactions are entirely emotional and social orthodoxy based. So if you want to win a debate with Sam Seder, you have to insult him. No matter what he says, you have to act like it's the stupidest thing anyone's ever said. That's how they debate.
That's crazy.
So if Sam says something like universal health
I don't
care,
even understand. Now, it's true. Like Tim's talking about such complicated things that I don't even understand what he's saying. Is he saying that opponents of mine have to say that what I'm saying is stupid? And because that's the way I debate?
Yes, I can translate this for you. Because remember back during your debate with him, when he started to say you're having an emotional breakdown when you weren't? He's copy pasting from the previous interactions to update his software. So like when he got emotional with me and got all red faced and screamed, he remembered that and the humiliation of that and wanted to use that against you.
That I get.
And then now he's remembering the more recent debate with you, which is when basically you mocked him and made him look silly. And he's trying to claim that that's the extent of your debate style. And he wants to, like he tried to by calling you emotional, use your mockery again. And his advice to others is to use mockery against you. Obviously, the mockery is kind of the cherry on top of the whole logical
I'm trying
argument.
to apply it in this situation. Haha, you don't want a Christian theocracy.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay. I mean, I'm confused too, because he seemed to get very upset when Milo Yiannopoulos on his show started talking about how the people who took that Russian money certainly knew what they were doing. And then Tim was like, no, that's not right. I'm one of those people. All right, go ahead.
like universal health care is a right, you'd be like, all right. You don't even know what rights are, dude. Oh, I can't believe you'd be so stupid. Do you have any idea how stupid you look?
That is what Ben Shapiro basically says.
What's going to happen is all the clips are going to go around and they're going to be like, oh, that was so dumb. I can't. But you make them look dumb and trigger their emotions. People on the right are going to be like, whatever. But that's the game. The role structure of American
I should say there's a cut there by the person who actually tortured themselves by watching this.
30% of America is. Yeah.
No, but even no, because if you go look at the Sam Seder ones, all of them are Sam Seder crushed them. Like he has a coherent worldview and they don't. So if you look at these LGBTQ ones where they do have a chance to open their mouth and a few words utter out of their mouth, you get to see their true colors.
You know, the thing about Sam is that he's got like a high school equivalent education. And I'm not saying that to drag him.
At best.
Again, I'll stress this to all his fans. I am not saying this to be like, oh yeah, well he's dumb. I'm saying.
Closet, I want to say, look, I sat with Tim, and as people know, and I think this came out during the interview with John Benjamin, I share a lot with Tim about my personal feelings. And so when Tim says that he's not doing this to slag me in any way, you should understand that Tim does feel like I have a high school equivalent education. Now, I did go to high school, so one could also say he has a high school education. But Tim seems to feel like I had an education that was equivalent to going to high school that I also happen to have gotten in high school.
Well, I'm a little confused as to, because didn't the rumors that he dropped out of high school, Tim, I don't care about that at all. I don't think that that's even relevant or a constructive point to bring up somebody's education. Like, I'm not an elitist in that way. I think you can gain education and life experience in a variety of different ways. But I'm not necessarily, his Wikipedia says it, left school at the age of 14. But it's odd to say that you have a high school level of education.
He didn't say I have a high school. He said a high school equivalent level, which is odder to say because I did go to high school.
But when we're kind of just like unpacking his lag and like his projection and his bluff, it colors it a little bit differently when you find out that he doesn't. That
so
this may be an insecurity
he's
of
super
his.
sensitive about it.
Maybe there's a bit of projection going on.
I get it.
Yes.
Here, yes.
I mean, in high school, you would say, if you had gone to high school, you probably would have said, he has a high school level education, not a high school equivalent education, because I literally do have a high school education.
Yes.
I went to high school.
Right.
Yeah, as opposed to when you go to college and you watch the Marvel movies.
Let's not get pedantic about this. Let's hear the point.
Saying this to be like, oh yeah, well he's dumb. I'm saying when I tried debating him, it was like 7 years ago. This is like the famous moment where I mentioned that his view on universal health care was basically an argument between deontological moral ethics
Pause it.
and
I'm sorry to interrupt this. We'll start back at the top of that. But that interview is not famous because when we did it, Tim hit it on his second channel because I think he was very embarrassed by it. Like, if Tim really wants to make that first interview famous, he should promote it on his real channel instead of hiding it. It's like almost impossible to find now, I think, if you search for it. It's funny that he thinks it's famous.
That's the one that he prefaced with like a separate introduction before you uploaded it, saying like, we had this talk and I don't know if you want to see it.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I forgot about that. He had to do like a whole separate special intro for it. Like, go ahead.
When I tried debating him, it was like 7 years ago. This is like the famous moment where I mentioned that his view on universal health care was basically an argument between deontological moral ethics and utilitarianism. And he says, I don't know what that means. And I'm like, oh. At that point, I should have said, okay, Sam, read some philosophy books to better understand moral ethics and philosophy, and then maybe we can try and understand the world together. But I should probably just say, if you don't know what these things are, I don't know how we have a conversation. Instead, I made the mistake.
I can explain to you how you have a conversation about healthcare for all without having it bootstrapped on some type of moral justification, even if you don't believe in consequentialism. You can just say, I think everybody deserves health care, and it would make everybody's life better if everybody had free, small copay, no paperwork health care in this country. That's how you have a conversation about health care. I don't have to justify it through labeling it, like how I derive this. It doesn't matter if I got it from my religion, if my religion I got from the back of a comic book, if I got the idea from a cartoon, or whether I got it from a deep intellectual talk. It doesn't matter. The question is, should we have universal single-payer healthcare in this country? Regardless of what your philosophical underpinnings are, that question remains. That's how you have that debate. But apparently, Tim is trying to have a philosophy show and not one about politics.
Of trying to dumb it down so that someone of his limited knowledge, again, not meant to be an insult. I'm saying he literally didn't know what deontology is. If I try to dumb it down so he can comprehend that, he started mocking it and making jokes about it. It's like, okay, so he literally can't comprehend, nor can he hold a serious conversation. And then I think you had the famous moment you asked him about consequentialism.
Yeah, utilitarianism. Because what I established at the beginning was like, but well, you gotta hear when you hear this guy's show, all he does is just talk a bunch of smack, and he says Trump is evil, conservatives are evil, religion is evil.
Pause
but I asked
1 second. First off, I'm not a religious fundamentalist, and I'm also not a baby brain. So the idea that I have said Trump is evil, that religion is evil, what's the other one that he said I'm evil?
Republicans.
Republicans are evil? No, I don't use the word evil.
In fact, you studiously avoid it because you think it's like kind of a crutch, right?
Smack talk with Ben
It's
Wickler.
smack talk. But, and again, I never said I had a problem with religion. I don't even have a problem with like religious fundamentalists. I have a problem with religious fundamentalism dictating the rules and laws of our country, because I believe we have a democracy. And in a democracy, it doesn't matter where your morals or values are derived from, in my opinion. I think they can come from anything. Some of mine probably come from my religious upbringing. But the point is, it's not a dictatorship. It is not an authoritarianism. And religious fundamentalism is grounded in one thing. They are being dictated to by invisible guy in the sky, I do mean guy, as dictated via whoever the chief spokesperson for that invisible guy in the sky is.
Right.
And in their case,
Pat Robertson?
it used to be like, yeah, Pat Robertson, and it could be the king, or it could be the king that we call president in their minds.
But it's about, at the end of the day, they call it morality, but it's about enforcing hierarchies, which they think are, by definition, moral.
A specific hierarchy, too.
So
There's no wiggle room in that hierarchy. There's no like, oh, look at this. Emma's in charge today. That doesn't happen. No,
Well,
no.
I mean,
in fact, not only do you not get to be in charge, you don't even get to choose who is in charge. This is that same guy. Women should not vote.
Oh, this guy's lost.
So he's got to turn it into like, this is some tack on religion. You know what? In your house, if you want to decide you're a woman and you don't want to vote because God or this guy has told you, that is up to you.
Go at it.
But let's keep playing, because I want to see with this. That's all you got? Is that all that's on that clip? I thought there was more.
No, that's all we have. But shout out to Axiom Drifter 777 who tagged us in this. Maybe we'll find some more of this later.
We'll talk more about this, because there has been a concerted effort to run away from what the fundamental question is. And the fundamental question isn't, where does Sam get his values? Or is Sam just sort of wayward? And I got news for you. They're presenting this as if this is a new thing. But I'm old, and so I know this is not a new thing from the right. Their biggest movement 30 years ago was called the moral majority. Their biggest talking point 25 years ago was the moral relativism of the left. Dan Quayle was criticizing a television character called Murphy Brown in 1992 because she depicted a single mother who had a child on her own. This is all the same stuff.
Tim Pool's also invoking a fictional character with the Thanos thing, but we can put that aside for a second. It's also not, what's also not new is their fear about politics being downstream from culture, which is why they're doing this whole reclamation project after the Jubilee thing went viral. While you saw in unison essentially, Charlie Kirk, Matt Walsh, and now Tim Pool focusing on that same clip with that guy where it was, I thought, humiliating for him, but they don't really care about the substance. They just want to flood the zone with their counter propaganda because they're concerned about losing the culture. And right now, they think that with Trump in office, they're feeling themselves like we're cool again. It's always fleeting for conservatives. Eventually, people realize that you're the
people are gonna watch it.
weirdos.
I mean, here's the thing.
And people can watch it, but that's what they're undergoing.
In their universe,
Yeah.
the reason why I go on that show and the value of it is that somehow I'm going to look smart or it's going to increase my personal value. I don't need to. I'm old. It's completely irrelevant to me. What I wanted, and to the extent that I messed that up, I should have brought it forth a little bit earlier. But if you watch that exchange with that guy, you'll get to what their vision is. And when you get to what their vision is, suppression of women, no rights for gay people, no rights for trans people, ultimately, no contraception. I mean, when that guy talks about like, we're here and because I'm a deontologist and I have my ontology says that we must follow the Christian fundamentalist edict that copulation is only for procreation. Therefore, no birth control, no divorce, no abortion.
And in the context of your marriage, basically the husband can do what he wants.
They would roll back rape laws.
For husbands.
Oh, yes. Frankly, I'm not convinced that given the opportunity, it's probably low on the list, but I don't even know. I mean, listen, how far are we out from like 6-8 years ago? You know, the Republican candidate, I think it was from Missouri, was saying, well, real rape, not rape.
Legitimate rape.
Legitimate rape. He
said your body is a way of shutting that down. So saying you can't get pregnant from a rape is what he was saying.
Understand.
Yeah.
They submerged a little bit and now they're coming back out. And the fact of the matter is, no matter how much they talk about Thanos, no matter how much they talk about philosophy or the underpinnings of someone's morality, or try and make some type of logical argument that you can't be a moral or good person unless you are following the edict of their particular God and their particular religion expressed by their particular, and I got news for you, you know, this Christian fundamentalism, it's different in different countries. It's not always the same. And unless you do that, you can't be a good person. And that somehow that justifies that being the law of the land in a democracy. And people not wanting that, that's the thing they're running into. So they've got to distract you with all this other garbage, which frankly, I have no problem with people if they want to have a philosophy conversation, but I don't give a shit.
They're bluffing too. I mean, the idea that they have deontological grounds to prefer God decreeing that women can't vote. I mean, please.
Yeah.
Are we serious?
Does
anybody think this is real?
Right. And it's so funny because they talk about how they're the facts people, but they can't have a conversation based in reality because it's threatening to them. So we have to do it all up in the clouds. And honestly, I get very impatient with those kinds of conversations. I like practical politics and stuff that can be applied to our daily lives and that empowers people. That's the other thing about this. When you make politics about these high-minded, I mean, I wouldn't even argue that it is, but let's, for the sake of argument, just basically say that these are such incredible concepts that people can't understand them. You're disempowering people from feeling connected to what politics does in their everyday lives.
Oh, that's what elitism is. And that's why they've shifted from, mentioning Marvel Universe stuff to stuff that none of their viewers actually do, which is like read Socrates and Aristotle and Foucault or whatever. That's such a lie.
Let's go to the phones. Calling from a 419 area code. 419? 419? Did you plug that back in? You did.
Hey, is that me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello. 419 419.
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello. Hello.
Hey.
Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm here. I don't know if you can hear me or not.
We can.
We can.
Can you hear us?
He can't hear us. Is this going through? All right. Well, let me see if we got somebody else, and then
Sorry, buddy.
Calling from a. Oh, there he is. He's back. 419. Are you there?
This is Hazel. I'm calling from Rochester, New York.
And can you hear me? Let me call in again. I don't know what's going on. Calling from a 305 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Tanya, actually calling from Washington State.
Tanya, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. What's on your mind?
So, seeing the CPAC thing with like all of the Roman wannabe Caesar images that they had made me think about something that has been frustrating me, and that is that these right-wingers think that they are funny. I mean, what's his face using that line in Life of Brian, always look on the bright side of life. Did he even watch that movie? Because he could say that, but he's not really aware of him being the bad guy. But, everybody shouts out Idiocracy. I want to shout out Mel Brooks and History of the World.
Okay.
Because I think Dom DeLuise, who I loved in All Dogs Go to Heaven, because I grew up in the late 80s, 90s, does an awesome portrayal of future Trump as Nero.
Oh, all right. I mean, I haven't watched any of those Mel Brooks movies in many years, but it actually occurs to me, and part of them, why I was like, I can't. Some of those comedies from that era can be a little bit inappropriate. I mean, I would go back and watch them with Saul, but I don't.
Right.
You never know what you're going to get with some of those old comedies. But maybe I'll do that.
True. No, I absolutely agree that when you're watching these comedies, you do have to. I mean, what was it? Blazing Saddles needed.
I was just thinking of that
preface
one.
to
Yeah.
Younger people. And what's crazy is when you watch the movie, you know that the dickheads, pardon me, but you know that the bad people are the ones who think it's funny to say the N-word. The sheriff is never the butt of the joke. In fact, before, God, what's his face? I'm going to get in so much trouble for not remembering
In Blazing
the name
Saddles?
of the actor. Yeah, the white dude. I'm in so much trouble.
Who is it?
Gene Wilder?
Yes.
Oh.
Gene Wilder's character looks at the sheriff before he shoots his shot as a, I'm not taking this from you. You tell me, I will do it. Which I think is a shout out to, being an ally. But people are more hung up, the idiots who don't have humor are more hung up on, he said the N-word. That's funny.
Right.
Well, conservatives can't understand art, right? Like we've talked about this before,
Right.
and the stuff that I saw Osea Nueva make this point on Blue Sky, and it's a bit tied to what you're saying, but we need to kind of make like being honest and virtuous, I feel like, a little bit more centered in our culture. We're in such a dark irony laden, nothing matters, lie to get ahead period, and I feel like some of the more like moral messages people roll their eyes at, but like that had value, right? And I don't know. It sounds corny, but
me as a youngster, I was like, whoa, that's really woke for that period of time. Holy cow. But back to the Dom DeLuise thing, because I didn't get to see him in his younger days. So I thought, because the joke is, Comicus is going to play the main room, Caesar's Palace. So I'm like, Caesar, Dom DeLuise is Caesar. But, you know, later in life, looking at these things, I'm like, oh, he plays Nero. That makes sense, because he comes into his hall, you know, of people waiting for him. He comes in like Bacchus, drunk, scratching himself with his little wand, burping. But there's this part where they're coming back with all these things from some Roman battle, whatever. And Dom DeLuise goes, treasure bath! And he jumps in this tub and they put like gold and stuff over him. And I'm like, there's Trump. Because Trump's got that gold toilet, whatever, going on.
Yeah.
And he always needs gold everything. But Dom DeLuise's Nero is an awesome, I think. And people should go back and look. And y'all should look at, because I'm a DJ in Twitch, but History of the World Part 2.
All right, we'll check it out.
Wanda Sykes does an awesome job. She does an awesome job teaching me something through comedy. But I just want to say, Dom DeLuise, rest in peace.
Yep.
He does a great Trump.
Appreciate the call.
Thank you.
All right, let's go. We'll have time for one or two more quick calls. All right, let's call from a 928 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? We don't have too much time. We got to go quick.
Oh, my God. Is this me?
It is you.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now you don't have too much time, but I want to try and get these two things across. First, I've been trying to call you guys for a long time.
That's
so
one?
The thing I want to say is her name is Pamela Bondi. Your reverse racism is terrible.
Okay. Pamela
anyway.
Okay.
Pamela Bondi. Now, okay. I'm going to try and jump into this as fast as I can. I've been practicing this for a while. So I have a thought experiment for you. All right? Thought experiment. I want you to imagine Emma is pummeling me, beating the crap out of me over in the corner. There's blood everywhere. I can't fight back, and I don't because, you know, I obviously deserve it. Sam, he freaks out, and he says, there's blood everywhere. He calls the police. The police show up, and they take Emma, and they take me, and they grab both of us, and they say, whichever one of you gives me the most money doesn't go to jail. The reason why, like, that is a fairly good example of what it is that we're all facing. What would you call the police officer who did that? What would you say they were?
Corrupt?
Corrupt. You would call them corrupt, because if a police officer acts for the purpose of gaining the most profit, he would be corrupt, or she. But the point is, police officers who act as capitalists are corrupt, because capitalism is a tool. Now, let me move on a little bit, because I know I don't have a whole hell of a lot of time.
We got to get going here, dude. You could have just said, don't you think that police who take money instead of actually following the law are corrupt? Yes. Okay.
No, it also builds on that, because what you want them to do is function for the greater good, and that would make all police officers socialists. You should be out there when you go to your Tesla protests and so on. When you go to do your protest, be sure to tell those police officers that their job is to be socialists.
Okay.
That is what we expect.
I've been in those instances.
wear goggles.
I will tell you, they don't.
Yeah, I know exactly.
Right.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that you shouldn't expect that. You should expect that you should be telling the police you want them to function as socialists.
Okay.
All cops aren't bastards.
And then expect
they're socialists.
this.
Okay.
And yes, expect what you get, because I guarantee you will get it. Also, the police and the firefighters are represented by a union. the only union that matters, because the police's job, well, they're
Dude, you got to get to the point. It's been 3.5 minutes, and all I know.
That is the point.
That cops are
The point
socialists?
is that we aren't saying that. You guys aren't saying that. You talk about unions.
We have a long.
The only union that matters
But
is
cops aren't
firefighters.
socialists.
Yeah, Colin, I want to jump to the chase here. It'd be nice if that was
Yeah.
the case. We have an entire history, including a history of unionized cops, not aligning with the labor movement, but aligning with capital. It'd be nice. It would be nice
Exactly.
if we could. What do you mean exactly?
And there's a reason for that.
Because we haven't been
The
calling them
reason for that
socialists?
is because our Constitution was written for the job of government to be in the minority of opulence to be protected from the majority.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So if we just keep saying if that is what we're talking about, then when you turn to Chuck Schumer and you're like, damn, Chuck, why didn't you stand up? Because his job is the job of government, to protect the minority of
Oh,
opulence.
no. Wait. It is not the job of government. This Constitution, hold on for a second. This Constitution, excuse me. This Constitution was written certainly to protect and inflate, if you will, or put a little bit of a thumb on the scale of property owners, without a doubt. But this is now 250 years later. We have amendments, we have development of law, we have social movements. And so the idea that government as a function is to function in that way doesn't necessarily have to be that. Government redistributes money. Excuse me. Government redistributes money. And sometimes it distributes it up, and sometimes it redistributes it down from whoever they take that money from. And that has ebbed and flow over the years. We had a 90% tax rate for people who in the top marginal rate of over $440,000 for multiple decades in this years. So the idea that it's baked into the cake, or that it is fundamental in that way, or that it's unchangeable is wrong. But I appreciate the sentiment. Gotta go. That was 6 minutes.
Also, socialist isn't somebody that's getting a paycheck from the government, too. Like, cops are not socialists because they work for the public sector.
His point is we shouldn't expect the government to even be socialist. I think his point was that it was wrong to even.
If you cannot make your point, within the first 5 minutes of a phone call, after I've told you we got to be quick, I'm sorry.
Also, I'm sorry, but what was the elaborate scenario of me beating someone up bloody? Like, did we need that imagery? It seemed very bizarre.
All right. Shoot. Now we don't have time for any other calls.
That's the miracle of debate for you.
I thought it was going in a men's rights direction, but it didn't.
Here's the thing.
I'm still a little confused.
I think it's worth emphasizing the sort of slave master and Virginia House of Burgesses lineage of our Constitution. But even at the Constitutional Congress that originally founded, there was strife between how much we're actually ensconcing slavery and conflict against it. It's overstating the case to say it was just a slaver's constitution. And ultimately, that's why Lincoln was able to invoke it as they got rid of slavery.
Yeah. We had a great, I've referenced this interview many times and I can't remember their names, but we had a couple of professors on who talked about the nature of our Constitution was anti-oligarchic. And it is, you have to keep in mind, this is a document that's written 250 some odd years ago. And the primary example of government that you had at that time was a monarchy. And a monarchy in today's terminology would be an oligarch, would be a dictatorial oligarch. You got the president, or whatever you want to call the head of state. They've got a ton of money. They are supported by a network of people that they literally surround themselves. The dukes and the other. It's mostly dukes, right?
Lords.
Lords, dukes, they hand out different spoils of the kingdom to them, which provides them security. And that's the way they maintain their positions. It's, if you update it in modern terms, it's an oligarch, which is a lot like what we're experiencing today. But the Constitution itself, it can obviously go in two different directions. I mean, we've seen it. Government can go in two different directions, probably more than two different directions, but broadly speaking, you can go one or the other direction.
The people we deputize for public safety can go multiple different directions. They don't have to be cops.
Government creates the playing field. It defines the currency. And then over the course of the extended game, it decides at different times who it's going to redistribute this money to. It puts the money out there. And this country has been more successful at times where the government has redistributed in such a way that the nation's wealth is spread out across more people and not consolidated in few hands. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. 10 IMs and we're out of here. Midwest Mike. I was at a town hall last night for Nebraska's 1st congressional district. It broke out in a chant of tax the rich. Not sure it will change much, but it felt good to get out there, stay active. Left is best. We played that. Lavender allergy. Washington is very close to a single-payer healthcare system, but it's being killed in committee. Well, we should look at that. Drew from Illinois. Laugh my ass. This is pure gold. So you want to tax the rich? Loud cheers. Mr. Little. Medicare and Medicaid dollars also fund the training grants for resident physician salaries in the U.S. So cutting those funds cuts the amount of physicians that the U.S. can train and put into the workforce.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't have tried to Fauci us.
Militant apathy. Emma is cooking. Sounding like Murray Bowen. Good job with that psychoanalysis.
Oh, thank you. Tim is very transparent.
Matt from PA. I had just the confirmation today that I'm officially on the ballot in this year's primary for inspector of elections in my town.
Hey.
Can't stress enough at how empowering running for something is, no matter how small the office. Good for you. Noel from San Francisco. The only thing a Schumer fights is shingles. That's not funny. Incidentally, if you're up there, get the Shingrets. It's a very tough vaccination, and you got to do 2 of them, but it's worth it. Jess from Jersey. Ever seen Better Call Saul? One after Magna Carta, if I could ever make such a mistake. No, never. That character was named Chuck, too. On the Musk primary thing, do you think the GOP will start to take notice that Musk is losing money hardcore and they could actually save themselves by opposing him and seeing him bleed dry before the midterms ever happen? He could lose half of his money and still, I think, be one of the if not the richest person in the world. Close enough that he'll never be able to spend that money. Bank Green, check your Blue Sky mentions for a fun Schumer edit. All right, 2 more. Mackenzie NY, reading Shock Doctrine per Emma's recommend. Crazy how real and recent it feels given Doge wrecking ball tactics. Also, shout out to TCG Union in Syracuse. And the final IM of the day. Sure. Cedar Simp. Chuck Schumer is a punk ass bitch.
Ooh.
Did Chris Hayes call him Hakeem Jeffries?
It was on purpose. Cool. It must have been.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome if Hayes in an interview said, you got cucked.
So Hakeem Jeffries.
You got cucked.
Dark Chris.
All right. Will you write down 401? We got to take that person next week or sometime. Apologies.
Week.
Yeah, they get screwed. Matt, Emma, great job today. We'll see you tomorrow.